So good morning, everybody. Happy Sabbath. We're glad to be here. We've come a long way to be with you. We should introduce ourselves, I guess. This is my wife, Cheryl. And I'm Edward, and we used to attend this church every Sabbath. We are members here from, I don't know how long. So we're working in India right now. We're been sent by the General Conference and the Canadian Union and your church, our church. So we're representing you. So what we're doing is bringing a report to you. We're trying to be accountable, bringing a report to you about what we're doing and what the Lord is doing. So how's that for introduction? So where we're working, we actually work for the division, the Southern Asia division. It's kind of like the North American division. And so we work there. I'm the community health coordinator, and she's my assistant. Some days, associate. Some days I'm the boss, and some days she's the boss. But
depends on the work that needs to be done, right?
our offices are side by side. So God has been good.
We've been there for this month, it'll be 4 years. And COVID came in between and I guess kept us from doing a lot of what we would have liked to do. Move it back a little bit. I want to get closer to this. Yeah. So I think this year we were finally able to have a normal year. So it was really, really a blessing. Maybe before we get into the slides in our presentation, we'll have another word of prayer.
Sure. Father in heaven, we invite you to be with us. Bless us. And please guide us as we help all the technology stuff to work. So that this presentation can show what you're doing in India. And we thank you and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So we were here about a year ago, and I was recovering from my challenge with COVID. And we were here about 4.5 months, and then we returned back to India in October. October 6th or 7th or 8th or somewhere in there.
I look at this and think it'll change, and it doesn't.
Am I supposed to be changing this? So, when restrictions...
It was good to be back to our house. This is the house we live in India.
So when the restrictions let up in India, we were allowed to travel again. And so my work at the division office is to... it needs a little bit of background, I guess. In India, there's been a lot of evangelism, but it's been foreigners, people from North America come over and do evangelism in India, and they mainly do the evangelism in the country areas. So there's a lot of churches in the villages, but in the villages they don't make very much money. And so our church can't really support itself financially, the division. And so let's see here, turning the wrong way. The long-term strategy is to try to have more Seventh-day Adventist churches in the big cities in India. There are 56, so what am I doing here? There are 56 cities in India that have a population of over 1 million. So there's a lot of work to do in India. So what we want to do is have more Seventh-day Adventist churches in the cities, and then hopefully that will support the church there, and the church in India won't have to depend on funds coming from North America, from other divisions, to support the work there in India. So one of my jobs is to, in each big city, is to start centers of influence. So like here in Calgary, your population is over 1 million, to have a place where Seventh-day Adventists have programs going every day of the week, not just Sabbath, every day of the week. And so people from the community come there, and they see things they're doing. They're benefited by, depression recovery seminars, all sorts of things. And then they say, where are you from? What church do you belong to? I want to be a part of your church. And so it's step by step, the church grows. And so that's what we're trying to do in India, start these centers of influence. So we went on 3 trips around India to start the process, the process of establishing these centers in the big cities. And one of them was in South India, Tamil Nadu. We rented a car, and the car came with a driver. His name was Venkatesh, and I'm glad, because the driving rules in India are a little different than here, and I'm not sure I could handle them. But Venkatesh was a great driver, and he knew everywhere we wanted to go. He knew people there, and so we had a great time with him.
So one of our main goals in India was to teach what we called lifestyle coach training.
Yeah, so these centers of influence that I'm supposed to start, you just don't, open up a building, and you have to have people to run the programs. So we decided we have to train people to run these programs in these centers of influence. So we started this training program.
We started the training in 2020 with our first batch over there. They call it a batch. We got halfway through and COVID came, so we were only able to do half of the training live, and we tried to finish it online. It was very challenging. So this year we were finally able to do another whole training, and on our travels we tried to find, we stopped at a few places to consider for where we would do the training. One of them was a very nice place, Mount Carmel. This is in southern Tamil Nadu. They had some nice buildings. They had nice rooms for the students to stay in, nice cafeteria, chapel, classrooms. Another one we looked at, I would say it was very rustic. It had a very small building. This is the kitchen. Right now they're using it for a garage. Okay. We'll show you later the one we chose. Here.
So in Pondicherry, is that Pondicherry?
No, this is Madurai. Madurai, we visited a few schools where Ed was. A lot of schools are interested in centers of influence. They want to have one at the school, then they can influence the parents, because most of the children are not Adventists. And so so we looked at a few different schools.
And when they say Adventist school, there's 300 students, there's 500, there's 3,000 students in their school. The biggest Seventh-day Adventist school in India has 11,000 students, one campus. There's so many students that they have to have a morning program, and then the buses come, they take away the students, and then buses come and bring back the students for second part of the day.
They have it set so that the students that are coming to class come in this gate, and the students that are leaving leave out that side, and so they just come through. And most of them, probably 99.9% are not Adventists, okay? These are all, so there's a possibility of a lot of influence there. Okay, we stopped at, I'm not getting this, it changed. I don't know if this is good or bad because I keep looking here and it
Distracts
doesn't change. So in Madurai we met a doctor, and we went to her office. That's how big it is. She's sitting at her desk and I'm sitting facing her, and that's how big her office was. And she treated clients there. And she had her own center of influence. Amazing doctor. Yeah, it was a really good experience to visit with her there. She shared what she's doing to influence people for the Lord.
She prays with people. She gives them some literature to read. And so she's doing what she can to interest people. You know, the medical missionary work is supposed to be the right arm of the gospel. So the right arm opens the door. But if you don't have any spiritual content to go into the people's hearts, what good is the right arm? So the two have to go together. The right arm, the health message, and then the spiritual. When people open their hearts, you can win them to Jesus.
She actually closed down her clinic in order to come to our training. Yeah, so she was very good student there. Okay.
Where are we?
Here.
Oh. Okay, and Pondicherry. Actually, that's a French word. And this used to be part of India that was run by France. We met some doctors there. They are part of a hospital system run by the Syrian Orthodox Church. And they took us to the beautiful location by the ocean. And they have a little church program there.
Are we in the way? Can you see okay? All right.
And they're right by the ocean. They have a wonderful place, and they wanted us to help them. They wanted us to help them start a program there. And they have this beautiful church. It's round. It's like a yurt sort of thing.
Isn't that awesome? You get nice wind coming through, and then you just have a...
It's no matter where you are in the church, you're at the front of the church.
It's another picture of inside the church, and this is what's close to them. In Chennai, we stopped and visited with Pastor Johnson. He's the director of Hope TV. And he also is interested in starting a center in connection with Hope TV. So we talked with him about that. And then we talked with him about the video series that we've done. And we asked him, will you show this on your TV? And he said, definitely. So right now they are showing, and you can go there and look at it too, the www.findthewayoflife.com. We have 21 sessions of the young people from our batch 1 training doing a presentation on how to experience the way of life. Yeah.
So another trip we went on, we went north along the northwestern side of India, and we went to Mumbai. And in Mumbai, well, it used to be Bombay, they took us to 2 churches. Now they're waiting on government permission to tear down the old church because they're afraid it's going to fall in any day, so they can't have worship services there. So they're trying to renovate the churches. But the government, they're waiting for, a bribe, and then I'll sign off.
We looked at like 3 or 4 churches they look like this. This is a church building. And they're just falling apart.
So they want to make, these are right in the center of where things happen there. And they want to make these a center of influence. So during the week, people can come there and participate in programs.
This is a really small church. You can see right between 2 bigger buildings. 1-story building, it's not usable. But right across from that, there was a tailoring shop. where they were teaching women there. She's learning how to cut out clothes. They just used the floor. They were doing it right on the floor. She had I think she had 6 or 8 students there. And that's basically the hallway coming into the living room. The sewing machines were there. You had to kind of slide in behind them in order to get into the living room. And she was teaching them. And I encouraged them. That was these 2 ladies were teaching those. So I encouraged them to do some Bible storytelling while they had the students there teaching them.
And then we were invited to go to a church that they had renovated the church. The church was on the upper floor, so we had to climb this rickety metal.
It looked almost like that, yeah.
So we went up there, and then they said, "Okay, you're our guests of honor." So what does that mean? That means you're going to have a speech, both of you. So we had to sit up front. And so both of us had our speeches, and then they had a big cake, and we had to cut the cake.
In India, when you cut cake, you feed each other.
Yeah, I had to give her some, she had to give me some. So, some of these things you're not used to when you're from a different culture, but you try to, just go with the flow. So we had a good time. So, where are we now?
They sang a lot of songs. The kids sang very nicely. They had fun singing.
I told you about this large school that had 11,000 students. They want us to help them with a center of influence there. And so we're going to train, they have a chaplain there. We're going to hire another chaplain and train them how to be more spiritual. And then we're going to, right close there, we're going to have a center of influence where parents of the students come and they learn about parenting and all sorts of programs, how the parents can be better parents for the students. So that's Ahmedabad. And that's where, when they had a special sign for us, and we were, these guests of honor, and it's a little bit much for us to take, us humble people from North America. So,
what's next? I don't think
they had us do, they wanted us to do Vesper service on Friday evening, and then Sabbath service Sabbath morning. And I expect when, as a pastor, when you go to a place, they'll expect you to have church service. Even if they ask you 5 minutes before you get up to talk, you can expect that. But on Friday evening, they wanted me to have Vespers as well. And I told Cheryl, I think it's your turn. So she said, but what do I do? So we talked it over, and she did most of it. We did it together, sort of. And then in the church service, she helped me. And so, we do things together, a good team.
One place we visited, there was a lady that we knew that was suffering with depression, deep depression. She was on medication. She didn't want to be on the medication. And so we sat down and talked to her and give her some ideas on how to deal with this depression so she could get off the medicine. And we encouraged her, you need to walk every day, morning and evening, 20 minutes at least. Fast walking. In India, the ladies do not walk fast. They don't walk fast. And so we encouraged her. We told her what to do with her diet and to do some other things. And a few months later, she came to Osur, where we live, and she was like, I'm off all my medicine. She said, I'm feeling so, and I could tell it from her face right away, right? She looked different. She was so thankful. Yeah.
She was really worried about her daughter. Her daughter, a lot of Indian students, they can't get into medical school in India, so they can go to the Philippines and train in the Philippines. And then they just write the exam when they come back to India. And her daughter was in the Philippines. And
we're going to have to talk less.
And so she was worried about her daughter and the finances and everything. And so we prayed with her and had her walk. And yeah.
I just have
Garfield.
some pictures of street scenes in India for you to look at. I'm not going to really comment about them, but we were walking through some cities and this is what we saw. This is a shop, just a street. Here he's making a huge dosa. Having a noonday nap, or maybe that's where they sleep all night. I don't know, could be. This was very close to where we walked. There's 2 different shops, very small shops loaded with stuff, mostly snacks. There's a tailoring shop right off the street, and garbage. Just living on the streets. Okay.
It's my turn now?
Yep. No. We did 3 trips. The third one, we went to Kerala, and 12 of us, that we went for one of our first batches. There was a couple that got married from our first batch. They met at the first batch. They decided they liked each other, and we did marriage counseling with them, and then we went to their wedding, and Ed had the service. And so, of course, we had to go to Kerala, and a bunch of their friends from Hosur, we all went together. This is the group of us that went to their wedding. This is the train, and this is like the 3-tier, we were on an all-night train. And so, yeah, that's what it was like.
So at this wedding, I had the sermon for the wedding, but it seems like in India, the more pastors you have participating in your wedding, the longer they'll stay together, or something like that. So there was about 9 pastors in the wedding.
This is normal. This is normal.
Yeah. Oh, next place, we went to one place on that trip.
Oh, you got to tell about the end of that other one first. Here, there's the picture for you.
Okay, so we went to the church there, and we just went for church service, and they had a baptism. And so in the afternoon, we were sitting around and talking, and there was 2 students from our first training. They were there with us. They came for the wedding. And the daughter, she was 15, I think. I had been doing Bible studies with her online. And so I told her, she wanted me to baptize her. And I said, I had to sign a thing with the Indian government that I would not proselytize. So I can't baptize anybody. And so I asked the pastor, so you still have water in your...
She said she wouldn't get baptized until Ed was where she was when she got baptized.
So the mother wanted to be rebaptized, and I said to the pastor, hey, can we have a baptism in the water there? It's still there? He said, sure. So, well, yeah, sure. And so we did it. Well, I didn't go in the tank, the pastor did. And so we had a nice service, and they were baptized, and her name is Arsha. Arsha, okay?
So on the way home, we stopped in a place called Turnavelli.
It's hard for us to remember these names. They tell us, we pronounce it, and then they say, no, it's this way, but it sounds the same as what we just said. You know how it is. The only way I could remember this name is by Turner Valley. So I would say it, but really quick and sort of muffled.
Yeah, and they would say, no, that's not right. Eternal Valley. You have to add another L in there. We went there because there was a family that owned a lot of land and several houses, and they were wealthy, and they wanted us to help them start a lifestyle center. So we went to visit them. And one of these is their son, the one with the pinkish shirt was their son, and the other one was our friend from Hosur.
Daniel Salish.
And they kind of drove us around and showed us everything, and took us to eat and took care of us, and they were very hospitable. And the young man with the pinkish shirt, he, because of our trip, our visit with them, he ended up coming to our training also. And I'll tell you more about him later.
Very nice young man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between trips, we did some marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling. This couple came, they were already married, and they said, please, you know, we've been married a few months and we're having some challenges. Can you help us? And we're like, sure. We'll try to fit you in between all the other things we were trying to do. So we did. When they first came, they sat on both sides of the couch, you know, a lot of space in between. They sat there. That's typical for India, not a problem. After about 3 sessions, they were sitting right beside each other. And when they first came, she would just look down, and if she wanted to say something, she would say it in Tamil and have her husband translate. And I'm like, I know you can speak English, just speak, you know, it's okay, we'll work with you. And she just had a really hard time doing that. But after our 10 sessions, 9 sessions.
We knew she could speak English because she has a master's degree in accounting, and she worked for some company in the US. She worked at night doing counseling with them with finances. So she had to speak English.
So this is Rural and Agnish, just to introduce them to you. And by the time we were finished, she was interacting with us really nicely, and she also came to our training. And this is the other couple, the ones that we showed you the wedding of. We worked with both those couples. Yeah, it was a real blessing for us and for them.
So in this report to you, our accountability, we want to encourage you that you can be missionaries. You don't have to go to India, but you can if you want. We could arrange that. You know, you can be missionaries right here in Calgary. The Lord needs you to do something a little more than what you're doing. You know, we've been asked to do things that we weren't comfortable with, but, well, if the Lord asks us, then I guess He'll show us how to do it. So He can do that for you too.
All His biddings are enablings. Okay, after we came back from Kerala, we had 1.5 months until our next training started, and we weren't ready because and so we put all our energy into preparing for a 4 months training. We hired a couple of ladies to help us with making contacts and phone calls. We had to arrange for teachers and location and advertising, and we planned classes.
One of those ladies, she would read a paragraph from the Spirit of Prophecy and ask them, do you understand this? Yes. Tell me what it means. And that
we were trying to check their
English,
okay? To see how well they could understand and say it back. We actually accepted several students that didn't do very well, but they really, really wanted to come. So.
They were from Nepal, and they were really committed. So they struggled at first, but then they caught on.
So we planned classes and schedules and prayed for students to sign up. And they slowly started signing up. It felt really slow. The last week before training started, we had 13 in 1 week sign up. And some of them lived a ways away and had to still come. And
some of them were pastors, and I had to call and talk to their bosses in order for them to come. It was quite a challenge.
The last one actually signed up on the day classes started. And so we ended up with 36 students. And this is a picture taken in front of our banner in the classroom on the first day of school. These students came. Oh, there's the classroom as well. Yeah, we found a really nice place. I'll show you some other pictures of it. So we had students that came from 16 out of 28 Indian states. Okay, this one is Pondicherry. Let's see. It's right there.
Red.
I made it in red. So Pondicherry, I'm going to show you the different places. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, come on, move. Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Telangana, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Bengal, Assam, Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Orissa, and Nepal. They spoke more than 10 different languages. Some of them spoke English very poorly.
But they understood more than they could speak, of course. A lot of them they know they don't speak English really well, and so they're a bit shy.
They got a lot of practice because everything we did was in English. Listening, speaking, reading. By the time the training was over, they were doing a whole lot better. Even the one that wasn't doing very well you could tell he was understanding, okay, by his face. And at the end, they all had to do a testimony, and they all did it in English except for that one young man. He was 16 years old. Yeah. So, welcome to Camp Revive. This is where we held our training, about 10 minutes from where we live. So it was easy for us. We had to go back and forth. This is coming from the main gate to their their office. This is a view of the cafeteria from the back. It was really nice. This is inside the cafeteria. This is our classroom building. And this is the hostel, they call it, where the students stayed.
Dormitory.
There was 4 rooms on each floor, 2 in this corner and 2 in this corner. This is taken from the other side. It was all open on the other side, so a lot of air went through, and it was a nice place. So we had the men stay on the ground floor, and the ladies stay on the first floor. And the top floor, guests, or sometimes we stayed there for a weekend. That's what that was.
So they got up very early in the morning. They did their private devotions, and then at 7:30 we had joint worship for everybody. And so one of us staff usually led out in the worship. And then they had breakfast at 8, and then at 9 we started classes. And the classes went for 50 minutes. So then they had 10-minute break, and then the next class. And so that went right until 1 o'clock. And then there was lunchtime, and then at 2:30 we started the afternoon classes, which were hydrotherapy and massage and those types of classes.
Natural remedies.
Went till 5:30 in the afternoon, and kept them busy, out of trouble. Sunday we usually had some sort of outreach program for them.
Okay, you already met Meshach. That's his name, Meshach. In Turner Valley. So he came. When we had visited in his home, I sensed he wasn't real happy with how his life was. But when I was talking to him the second Friday evening after Vespers, I asked him, "How are you doing, Meshach?" And he said, "I'm really happy here." And I said, "I can see your face is different." Yeah. So I'm not sure why. Okay. One Sabbath evening, near the beginning of the training also, I talked about 3 dimensions of music: melody, harmony, rhythm, and how they relate to our body, like mental, spiritual, and physical, right? They don't know, they hardly ever see music because their hymn books are just words, they're not music. So they don't understand what a music note is, what it means, and so I tried to help them understand some of that. And I taught them a different version of Jesus Loves Me as a round. It's a really pretty song.
They have really good memories, and so they have many piano players that play in memory.
And they can't read music at all.
But they remember the mistakes too, and so they play the songs with the mistake the way they learned it, not according to the music notes. So
they learn the song. And then I had them break up into 5 sections. Now in India, they don't do parts. They sing only the melody. They very, very seldom sing more than that. So I had them do 5 sections, and then, of course, a round you start, and then you join, and you join, and you join. And so they had to really concentrate on what they were singing, and they did really well the first time. They learned the song, and then we made a round, and they just loved that song. They sang it a lot. And the last phrase says, "There he gave his life for me." So we sang it through a few times, and then when we finished, I was just impressed. Just to close the meeting by asking them, "How do you know that Jesus loves you?" And I got a few answers, different ones, and finally I said, "What did you just sing?" And they're like, "Because he gave his life for me." I said, "That's how you can know that Jesus loves you." And later I was talking to Meshach again, and he said, "I was really touched by that thought. Thank you so much." He said, "Back home I used to hate Sabbath. I dreaded for it to come." He said, "Here, all week long I look forward to Sabbath." It's like, praise God. We had a mother visit Daniela near the beginning of the training. She came and stayed for a few days. She attended the classes. And afterwards she came to me, and with tears she said, "Thank you so much for bringing this to India. We need it so much here." We had to teach our students how to do health expos. Over there they call them medical camps. And that was my job.
One of the main things that draws people, they get to know the people, and people come back. So
they do lots of them. And so it was my job to teach them how to do it. So we had a couple of classes, and then we did a dry run. And this is the dry run. I had the students divided into, I think, 9 different groups, and they would stay at each booth for 12 minutes, and then they would switch so that they could get a feel for how all of them were, because when they were doing a real medical camp, they didn't know where they would be. It felt like organized chaos. To me, it was like really, really chaotic. But by the time we were finished, they all said, "No, that was really good. We understand now what's supposed to happen." A month or so into the training, Meshach visited our home, and we asked him how he was doing. And right away, he launched into this big thing telling us how much he's changed and how he's been blessed and how he's never used to read his Bible, and now he reads his Bible and he prays, and he's just, when he goes home, he's going to read through the whole conflict series, the Conflict of the Ages series. And he said, "And I called home and I talked to my mother for an hour, and I talked to my father for an hour, 2 hours each, separately, about the Bible." And he said, "They're just blown away. They're just really amazed at what God is doing in my life." And he said, "When I decided to come to this training, I told my parents I was coming, and they didn't believe that I would really come. So even when he was packed and getting into his car, they're like, 'You're really not going, are you?' And he's like, 'Yeah, I'm going.' 'Nah, you won't be staying there.' He says, 'Yeah, I'm going.' And he said, 'That's the first decision I ever made on my own in my whole life.'"
His father used to tell him what shifts to wear in the morning.
This is Pavitra. I had worship one morning, and after worship she came and stood beside me, and I gave her a hug, because I hug the students, the girls especially, all the time. And she just kept standing there, and so I said, "Is there something you wanted to talk about?" And she said, "Ma'am, I'm so weak." And I looked at her and I said, "Pavitra, that's wonderful. Because when you recognize that you're weak, then you know you need God." And so I encouraged her, stay close to God. He's strong. When you're weak, just depend on him. And I asked her, "Have you given your heart to Jesus?" And she was so happy to say, "Yes, I have." We emphasize so much in all of our classes how to have a relationship with God, how to give your heart to him, how to surrender, what it's like, what it looks like, how to know. And so we prayed together and she went away happy.
Students really enjoyed singing, so they sang as individuals, in groups, and they were divided up into groups to be responsible for Sabbath school and church. And so they did their parts really well, and it was amazing the talents that they had. It was just encouraged them to get up and do really good.
The first Friday evening of our training, we started a tradition that we did every Friday evening. After the prayer, we all got in a circle around the room and we sang, "I Want to Go to Heaven." If you don't know that song, it's a really good song to learn. I want to go to heaven. I want to see Jesus. And then when we finished the song, we all shared hugs together, and the students loved those hugs. There was one girl, this one, Renuka. Every time I would hug her, like I would hug them really tight, and she would giggle. And finally I said, "What are you giggling about?" She says, "Nobody ever hugs me. I haven't had hugs, and it feels so good."
She came all the way from Nepal.
Even now, last night, Meshach, we have a WhatsApp for all the students in that group. And he put up a part recording of the "I Want to Go to Heaven" song. He said, "I searched on my phone for half an hour to find this." And all the other students responded, "Oh, we miss it so much, we miss it so much."
So our classes, we have 7 teachers. They're all sitting in the front row there. And I taught several classes. I'm training in somebody to take over from me, and his name was Akash. He came to our first training session 2 years ago. So he helped me on and off, not every class, but so I did mental health class. I had, when you're dealing with people, you have to know about these other things. Once you build a friendship with them, build trust, then they'll start telling you about the problems that they're facing in their family. And you need to know a bit about how to deal with it. So things like depression, anxiety, what about suicide? Somebody's talking about suicide. Domestic violence, grief, anxiety. And then nutrition class. So how to encourage the people they work with to switch to a plant-based diet, and how to do it and why it's important. And then basic anatomy and physiology class. So how the different systems in your body, how they work, and how to take care of your body. Akash taught the 8 laws of health and giving health talks for the medical camps. And Akash's mother, Jessie, she taught cooking school, or cooking classes, menu planning, and the students she divided them into groups, and they did some of the cooking as well, and preparations. And then Dr. Daniel Dreher, so that's Lorna and Daniel, you know them, Cheryl's sister. And so Dr. Daniel and Rebecca, they taught massage and hydrotherapy.
I don't know, it's gone blank.
So there was 4 months they taught these classes. So 8 hours every week of teaching. So demonstration and practical applications.
They had to give massages. They had to do hydrotherapy.
So we had 4 months of training, and then lots of practice. And even in my classes, where it was like kind of lecture style, I would divide them into groups and then give them questions they had to discuss with each other. And because when they're out on their own, who do you rely on then? So they need to know this so well that they have no problem doing it. And then the last month, right now, they're in their practicum. So they're doing their training by themselves.
So here, they had all just done some kind of poultice. They did charcoal and castor oil and potato and garlic and ginger and all kinds of different poultices that are good for different things. So they all had to put a poultice on, and then they were posed for pictures because they thought it was so cool that they did their poultices, right? So they had to pose for a group shot every time. Lorna Dreher taught the Way of Life series, and that's the video that I told you about. That's one of 4 of the series. She started with Share the Way of Life. In that course, they learned how to tell expressive, interesting Bible stories. They had to practice how to ask questions to bring out the lessons that they needed to teach in the stories. And at first they were really reluctant to do that. They weren't used to getting up front, they weren't used to talking. But they didn't have a choice. You were in the class and so you did it. Her second course was Find the Way of Life. Oh, here they're learning how to tell Bible stories that were like acting it out. Find the Way of Life. This one uses Bible stories to teach the great controversy. Amazing series of stories. And again, they had to get up and tell the stories and teach the lessons. The third one was Experience the Way of Life. And this book uses Bible stories to show how to let Jesus come and dwell in your heart. That's the series that we videoed. The students said the classes taught them how to confess and forgive, how to yield to God, how to walk in the Spirit, how to change their wrong thinking habits, how to share with others. The fourth book, Rebecca taught, Follow the Way of Life. It goes through Bible doctrines using Bible stories. And so they really learned how to tell Bible stories. They did this 2 hours a day for the whole 4 months. They learned storytelling. There's Rebecca teaching her class. Some more acting out. Meshach told me how these courses helped him. He said he was shy. And he didn't want to get up front. He didn't want to have anything to do up front. So when they did it one-on-one, that's how they started. One person telling one person. He said he wrote down notes and he practiced and finally he had to do it one-on-one.
He said he was shy, but you know how it is. With any clowning going around, he's in the center of it. So he had it, he could do it.
So finally, after he did it a few times one-on-one, he was like, okay, I don't need notes, I can just tell it. Well then, they switched to one with 5 or 6, and they all had to do it. And again, he panicked, and he prepared, and he wrote notes, and he practiced. And after doing that for a little while, he got comfortable with it, so he didn't need to do it, to write so many notes, right? And then they had to get up front and do it. One person to the whole group, and again, he went through this whole thing. But finally, he was okay to just share the story. And I told him, I said, now you'll be able to preach. And he didn't deny it. He didn't deny it. Okay, I started off teaching Christian history. It starts with basically the fall of Jerusalem when the first Christians came. And it traces God's hand at work up until I went all the way. I did Last Day Events also this time.
How he
through the second coming.
preserved his word all the way from Jesus' time.
Amazing stories.
All events right to our time.
Yeah. And even one of the pastors came to me and he said, I never learned any of this in school. I never learned about this. And so they learned a lot of information. The second class I taught was Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing. And this one I just told them to read a section and then we discussed it in class. And again, they said, this book has come alive to us in this class. Some of them, yeah, we'll give some testimonies later, but in every class, I gave them a challenge, especially in Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, because every page has a challenge, right? If you read it, it will challenge you all the way through the book. It's an amazing book. Here are some of the testimonies that they gave. Okay, we asked them to write out some testimonies to share how they had been blessed, what they had learned. This is Samra. Summer has an amazing story about how she was even able to come to our course because she signed up and then she had to back down and then she could come again and then she couldn't come again and finally God worked it out so she actually really came. So she was so happy to be there. She said, "This has made a great impact on my life. The things I learned were so new. God's ways are wonderful."
And Roma was from way up north. And she said, "I learned to reach out to people and approach them and share with them." See, we did these medical camps, but we also did door-to-door, going door-to-door and sharing.
Sneha, she's from Tamil Nadu. She said, "Before I came, I was thinking, whatever I do is really good. But after coming here, I learned how to be connected with God, and then I realized I wasn't good. That helped me to forgive others." She told me, "I never forgave anyone. If somebody did something to me, I would never forgive them." But she learned how to forgive because having bitterness is a big mistake. Yeah.
So, he was a pastor. He came and he said, "I was blessed." And he said, "I was grateful beyond words to have joined this amazing Spirit-led program. Not only the experience of closeness I've had with God, but the practical approach received through teaching and training. I will be ever grateful." So when you hear that from a student, that's good.
This is Vikram. He's a chaplain from one of our Adventist hospitals in Surat. He said, "Christian history class taught me a lot about what happened with the followers of Christ in the past. It reminds me to be watchful and prompts me to prepare myself and others to uphold the Bible truth for the time of trial that is going to come very soon."
And Sundari, she was a teacher. She had newly retired, I guess. And
every time I came into the classroom, probably you too, she would be sitting, and if we walked into the classroom, she would stand up. "Good morning, good morning." And I'm like, "You don't need to do this." Oh, but it was, being a teacher for so long, it was just ingrained into her, and she just had to do it.
That's what we do here.
That's what you do in India.
So she had a car. It was a nice car, but she didn't know how to drive. And so she would get one of the other students to drive for her. It was very interesting. She said, "I have been blessed with the knowledge of our Savior, experiencing and knowing Him in deeper ways, and the practical methods to tell about Him to others."
This is Jennifer. We call her Jennifer. She was 16. She had her 17th birthday. I asked her at her birthday party, they had to celebrate everybody's birthday. If they found out it was your birthday, you got something. I said, "How are you doing here?" Oh, she said, "I was so sad when I first came. I cried and cried, but," she said, "now I'm just loving it." So that was nice. She said, "One of my favorite classes was Christian history. In every closing prayer of that class, my eyes were filled with tears. I never slept in that class. I had read Mount of Blessing before, but this class helped me to change some of my bad habits. I also learned how to mingle and adjust with my friends and roommates." So she had been homeschooled before, and she hadn't had a whole lot of interaction with other people, and that she struggled with that for a while. Yeah.
So this young man's name is Junius. He said, he was a pastor. "Another thing I learned is total surrender to God. The series My Way of Life
The Way
of Life, God's Way of Life, is wonderful. It helped me to find Jesus and experience and follow Him and to share the joy of salvation with others. It helped me to acknowledge my unworthiness and accept Jesus. I learned to ask and give forgiveness."
And here's Abby. He was also 16. On our application form, we said nobody under 18. And so they had to phone us, "Please, please, we want to come." So we had 3 16-year-olds, and they did well. Okay, this is Abby. He says, "The part I enjoyed the most is Sabbath, especially the choir practice. after a couple of weeks, they asked for choir, which I had wanted to start anyway. So we started a choir, and they learned to sing 4-part harmony. If it works, I've got a video of part of one of the songs that we did at the commissioning service. They had never, like I told you, and so to sing in a choir, I mean, it won't compare to Mormon Tabernacle, okay? But they loved it.
His father came to visit. We invited pastors in the area to come and speak on Sabbath. And his father was one of the pastors. And so his father and his sister came. And after church, they wanted him, Ebby, to go with them to visit somebody else. But he wouldn't. He said
they
no.
They came and asked me permission because we wanted to know where all the students were. And I said, well, he can go. Just let him know that there's choir. And then this evening we're going to do on how to choose a partner. And he didn't go with them. He's like, I'm not missing choir. So he said he enjoyed especially the choir. After coming here, I started depending upon God, even for the small things. Instead of asking someone, I prayed to God, and God really answered my prayers. And then there's Pushpa. She actually sent me this text a couple of days ago, and I thought I would include it in. She says, when we all came the first day, and this is this is just how she wrote it, okay? When we all came first day, how timid and fearful and shy we were, like born babies. But through God, all of you fed us with truth and information, mixed with love and affection, and day by day helped us grow well. Slowly but steadily, we, with your supports and with God's help, developed ourselves. You all made us be equipped well in sharing what we learned. We are very happy and thankful to you for giving such a wonderful, life-changing, and empowered ministry and tools to do ministry and reach people for God.
So on Sundays was a day for outreach. And so we had them, one of the first things we did was go to orphanages. And of course, the children love to have you come and do programs for them. So that was great. That kind of got them into doing things. And then the next thing we did was medical camps. Cheryl showed you.
Oh, this is an orphanage too, sorry.
Cheryl talked about organized chaos. Well, they actually got to put it into practice. And they did really well. I was amazed as I went, I'm the supervisor, so I went around to each station, listened to them. They were doing amazing.
And then they had to pose for a group shot after every health medical camp.
Let me see, I'm trying to think of how many people came to this medical camp. One of them, it was 80 some. Another was like 100. So there was a lot of people come through. And one of I went with them, going door to door, passing out flyers, promoting the medical camp. And they were saying, the students were saying, there's going to be 2 foreign doctors here. And I said, why are you saying that? If we say that, they'll come. More people will come. I said, but why would they come to foreign doctors and not the Indian doctors? Oh, they think foreign doctors know more. So, well, who are the foreign doctors? Well, there's Dr. Daniel and there's you. I said, me? Well, I'm a PhD doctor, kind of professor doctor, teacher doctor. I'm not a medical doctor, but well, people came. Lots of people came.
So they love to celebrate birthdays. And they do it every chance they got. On this day there were 2 birthdays, Agnes and Rebecca, and they had me come and feed them their cake. Then they found out when my birthday was, and of course they had to celebrate that one, and they found out when our anniversary was, and they had to celebrate that one as well. It was like a fun time together, right? What's the next one? Okay. We had some special Sabbath evening programs. I don't know if you're familiar with, what's the Days of Noah video? You seen that? So we showed that to them. It took several sessions to go through it. It really helped them to understand how it all worked together. Couple of times we just had games. Then we did some marriage, teaching them how to choose a partner, and then also teaching them how to relate to their spouse.
We have been married for 51 years, so we figured we had some advice we could pass on.
And then they begged for a campfire. So one night they said, we've never had a campfire before. Give us a campfire. So we did that, and we told stories and sang songs. And this is Angel. I just thought you would like to see a picture of Angel. She had incredible hair. 2 or 3 weeks before we finished, the students were already coming to me with tears saying, you know, when we first started, we were looking at 4 months. That's a long time. And now there's only 2 weeks finished and we're crying because we don't want it to end. We don't want to leave here. So it was great, and it was hard because we didn't want them to go either.
So on the last Sunday, we hired a bus from the local Adventist school, and the bus took us out in the country about an hour away, and then we climbed up this mountain. And
Talk about that.
one of the young men had sprained his ankle, and he said he couldn't come. But the other young man said, no, you're coming if we have to carry you. And so they carried him to the bus, and then they carried him up the mountain.
Carried him a long way.
Okay.
So at the top there was a big rock. You can see it there. So we got to that big rock, and it was too high. Like most people couldn't climb up it. But some of the young men climbed up, and then they pulled everybody else that wanted to come up to the top, and we were there for a while, and then they let everybody down again. And in the end, we made our initials.
So Restore Lifestyle Coach Training. They had fun. And then
the Friday evening before our last weekend, we decided to do communion with them. So we planned a special weekend, special Friday evening. We started with supper at 6:30. We arranged the tables in a cross shape. We made a special supper that was no rice and curry, okay?
it's like we called it agape feast.
Yeah. We fixed lentil soup, and we made some hummus, and we had naan bread, and they dipped it in the hummus.
Pomegranates.
And we had pomegranates. We tried to make it a little bit like maybe the disciples had. And they had a wonderful meal, and then we sent the guys and the girls to different places to do the foot washing. While they were gone, 3 of us stayed and cleaned up the cafeteria, put white tablecloths on the tables. Oh, there they're washing their feet. And we put laid roses down the middle of the tables and put candles on. And turned out all the lights, so when they came back for the bread and wine, it was transformed. And it was a very special occasion. Ed shared some thoughts, and one of our students had made fresh grape juice. It was really good. And we shared chapatis for the bread. And we shared, and we sang, and we shed tears together. And two of the students had not been baptized, so they weren't sure they should take part in communion, and we encouraged them. And they're both planning to get baptized now. But they said they've never experienced anything like that before. It was so special for them.
You know, in India, men don't cry. It's a bit the same here. Men don't cry, it's a sign of weakness. But now, on Friday evening was very special. And so now on this WhatsApp messaging program, even the guys saying, don't post those things, you'll make me cry. So they're very much express their emotions now. That's a good thing, because you can do counseling much better when you know about emotions, and you can express emotions, and you can understand other people's emotions.
So then we came down to the last weekend. We called it commissioning. It wasn't graduation, because they didn't graduate.
Because they're lifelong learners. You don't
That's
graduate.
right.
You keep on growing.
Yeah.
Even in heaven, we'll keep on growing in knowledge.
So the choir had learned 3 songs to sing, one for each meeting that we had. And each student had something to do. Either they led out in song service, or they had prayer, they gave a testimony, something they were responsible for. Friday evening, 2 of the students gave a challenge to the other students to take what they had learned and to use it. Don't just stop here. Keep going. Use what you've learned. And the choir sang, "Here am I, Lord, send me," as a response to them. Sabbath, Ed preached a sermon about being faithful. And the choir sang, "Here am I, Lord, send me." And I think this is the one that, see if it'll play. Okay, will the video play? It's just part of the song. And that was our challenge to them. May all those that come behind you find you faithful. Yeah. In the afternoon, it stopped. In the afternoon, we had each student share a testimony of what they had learned or benefited from or been challenged with. We said 1 minute each. We thought if we gave them 1 minute, they'd take 2.
Sure enough, one took 20.
So the program went overtime, and we started at 2:30. I was worried that the visitors were going to get tired, and I was sitting right near the front, and I thought, well, when it's finished and I turn around, it'll just be our students left. But everybody was still there. This was 4 hours later. And I talked to some of them after, and they're like, I had to go to the bathroom so bad, but I didn't want to miss anything, so I couldn't leave. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Our students' talks were very touching for them, okay? One young man that we've known for a few years, he came and he sat through the whole thing, and afterward he came to one of us and he said, I'm going to join your next training. We're like, praise God.
We had students from, the youngest was 16, I think, 17, 16, and the oldest was 78. So, a lot of different professions. So when they finished their testimonies, then us instructors stood up and we each read a Bible verse to them, and we challenged them to be faithful. It was a special time.
Then we ended with our I Want to Go to Heaven song. And we shared hugs. And we cried. Yeah. And we laughed and we encouraged and then we sent them away. They have 1 month's practicum they need to finish. And we actually left the next day also to come back here. And so they've been posting on WhatsApp what they're doing. Here they are going to their practicums, some by plane, some by train. They just send us pictures.
They're doing all sorts of things.
And then the treatments that they're doing, how they're working, preparing meals for people to show them how to cook healthy food. Look how they're preparing that. Where are they sitting? Yeah, a lot of pictures they're sending us. Poultices, massages, preparing food, talking to people, sharing Bible stories and health talks. And I miss them. Yep.
So I keep saying, I'm old enough to retire. Cheryl says, nope, we're going back. So
it's been a huge blessing for us to work with these young people, to be in India. Many, many challenges, many challenges. We didn't share most of them with you, probably none of them. But you know, God is faithful, right? If you seek Him when you have a challenge, if you seek Him, He is faithful. He'll help you through it. He'll give you the answers. And there were so many times we had to just depend on Him because we didn't know what to do. And I praise God because, as I told the students, thank God for the trials because they're bringing them closer to God. If you don't have trials, you kind of tend to get lukewarm, right? But when there's trials, you know you need help. You know you need God. And so it's almost like, well, in James it says we're supposed to be thankful for all the trials we get because they produce patience in us. And so it's like James is saying, well, not quite ask for trials, but, be thankful for them. And so I've learned to be thankful for the trials God sent me because I know I need to spend more time with Him when I have the trials. And so it's a big blessing.
So, when you look around the world, you listen to the news, Do you hear this? And there shall be wars and rumors of wars. See that you're not troubled, for all these things shall come to pass, but the end is not yet. And nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. Some are weather-made, some are human-made, some famines are war-made, and there's pestilence. You see what COVID did to the world? And earthquakes in different places. So, people coming and saying they're Jesus, you need to follow them. You know, things are happening in the world showing us that Jesus is coming as soon. Things are happening in the church showing us that Jesus is coming as soon. People are lukewarm and they don't care. And some people are getting ready for Jesus coming. So I want to encourage you in Hebrews chapter 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, seeing we also are compassed or surrounded about with so great a cloud of witnesses. You know, when we think of all of the people that have gone before us, when we think of, all the Waldenses, the martyrs who were persecuted, when you think of the early Adventists, when, all those, we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Now is our time. You know, all those people in the past, the Lord gave them their time. Now it's our time. Now it's your time. Looking unto Jesus. Don't be afraid. Just keep looking to Jesus. The author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Now's your time. What will you do? You don't have to go to India. You have a city right here. Over 1 million. Now is your time. Please be faithful. Be faithful. It would be good, you singers, to learn that song and sing it often here. It's encouraging. So God bless you as you live day by day for Him, and as you rise to the challenge. Now's your time. God bless you.